Okay, let's talk about it. Do you,
Welcome to the show.
what do you think is going on with the phone recording thing? Because my brother was talking about that the other day, and I'm like, how do you think that works? Do you think it's listening all the time and then it picks out key phrases and then advertises them to you? Or do you think that you're actually Googling certain things and it just uses that information? Because I Google like Dark Souls all the time.
Uh-huh.
So it would make sense for the internet to advertise Dark Souls stuff to me. But I
I think
also
it
Google a million other things. I Google other stuff and that shows up in my feed too. It, I'm skeptical that because I say so many things around my phone, but it only really advertises things that really that I probably say enough times. I don't know how it would know which things to pick out.
I think it just tracks your engagement with everything. So I feel like if you're saying particular words a lot while also Googling those same words or things, and it also tracks you know how like there's advertisements or trailers for things that will autoplay as you're scrolling through like a social media feed. I think it tracks when you stop and like watch that trailer for even for like a few seconds versus just scrolling past it. There's a you ever watch, I think it's on Netflix, called it's like The Social Dilemma. It's a whole
I haven't seen that.
oh dude, you got to watch it. It's a whole documentary about social media and
Oh goodness.
how it tracks you. Like it they interview a bunch of people who worked for these different social media companies, and they talk about like all the different ways that basically it basically tracks you in like all these different facets, so it knows what to advertise to you, what to show you. That's how you see all these echo chambers being created, because you make some political statements and then it'll show you things from other people making similar statements, and then it
Sure.
creates this illusion that that's the majority of think, when really it's just an echo chamber, because it recognizes that that's an ideology that you have or an interest you have,
Yeah.
and it just keeps fucking feeding that back to you over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
Well, I think the people who run those sites, their only goal is to get you to be on the site longer. And
Mm-hmm.
people will be on a site longer if they see things that they relate to and that they like. And the only way to know what people relate to and like is to assume that they like the things that they want to interact with, that they choose to interact with, or that they say out loud. And so the the sites will do that. I'm just curious how it all integrates together, because Twitter is not owned by Facebook or Google. And so if I do a search on Twitter, how does Google know what's going on there? Or how does, you know what I mean? Like, how does, I don't, I feel like
Well,
they're all doing
so
separate things and
so
they're
part
all
of
doing it
that
in their own way.
was in that documentary is they talk about how they sell your information to other companies. Like your information is their product, basically. So Facebook
Sure.
sells your information to whatever other
To
agency, and then
Google,
they're
or
selling, maybe, yeah. I mean, I don't know. They didn't
because Google,
specify like who's.
I wouldn't imagine Google needs information from other sources necessarily, because Google
Mhm.
has their hands in so many other pockets. Also, I mean, that amount of information is kind of overwhelming to think about. I don't. I think my skepticism is only in the um, deliberate nature of it. Like, I think it's there, and these companies are trying to use it, but I'm not I'm not so sure that they're doing that, they know how to use it, like that they actually, I think they're just sort of like going, oh, I don't know, he likes that, go shove that in his face. Oh, he maybe he
It's
likes this, shove it
all
in his face.
it's all just money,
It's so
it's
fast.
just them trying to sell products to you. It's all consumerism
Yeah, so it
stuff,
also has to connect with businesses that are trying to sell something. So information in and of itself isn't useful to them, other than the fact that it might keep you on their website. but
Mhm.
but the but it's also mostly for their advertisers. So they both need you to be there, but they also need you to see things that are advertisements. But nobody likes advertisements, so they have to do this balancing thing where they're like, okay, this person's a conservative, so let's sell them guns and knives and Bibles. And but you but we really need to get them interested in content that's like about guns and knives and stuff that's not advertisements.
Mhm.
It's
And
interesting.
then
I'm not like
that
worried about any of it.
gradually leads to an insurrection act.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. It's
That's
interesting because that kind of stuff happened before, and
mhm.
people would organize in different ways through probably town hall meetings and things. But now they can organize just from home,
It's so much easier now. Yeah, you just do it from home and you
yeah,
connect to way more people.
yeah,
There's such a larger reach than there ever was before.
yeah.
So you should definitely watch that documentary. I think you'd find it really
What is
fascinating.
it called again?
I think
Social
it's called The
Dilemma.
Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix.
Okay,
It was like
yeah, that does interest me.
it was a big documentary, I think like last year or the year before. It's a
Yeah.
more recent documentary, Social
The only thing I
Dilemma.
don't like about documentaries is
Yeah,
that
it's The Social Dilemma. That's right.
they're just massively
One-sided usually. They're
but just
usually
they're
pushing
so
an agenda.
narrow
Mhm.
focused that they just show you all the evidence for their story, and it's not science. It's not like they went out and did like a really unbiased experiment and they tested, all this stuff over the last 20-30 years. They just, interviewed people and found interesting information, and most of it's true. It's just not
Yeah.
necessarily like the whole truth or contextually important.
There's some, yeah, I think the most fascinating parts of it are when they're interviewing like people who used to work for Facebook or
Yeah,
Google or
that's really
Twitter or
good
whatever.
stuff.
Like that's interesting to hear like some insight. But then there's if I remember correctly, there's like some like hippie dude on there literally with like dreadlocks, and I'm just like, he's obviously got a particular agenda, I'm sure, like end all technology or something. But it's pretty good. There's a lot, it's a pretty negative
Yeah,
documentary in
of
terms of
course.
like the outlook of the future as social media continues to expand and become even more a part of our lives and stuff. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's like a few people that try to like have a message of hope, but for the most part, it sounds like eventually, like social media is just going to tear our entire world asunder, and people are going to be in these like warring factions and shit like that. So, but
Yeah, I don't know
it's still a
why.
good watch. I think it's only like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. It's not super long.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting how people catastrophize stuff with no evidence that like that's going to happen. It's just too new to really know what the outcomes are going to be. And most of the time, communication tends to be helpful, whether it's echo chambered or not. Um, I don't know. People are going to being able to communicate with people is usually helpful. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
guess it just depends on how you use it. It's just like anything else. If you use it only um, to see things that you like, then you're going to be as narrow-minded as you are. You just will be. So deal
I
with
think
it.
I think that's the biggest downside to social media is not that people, I mean, it's cool that you're able to connect with people that you maybe would never have known about before, but I feel like it's created a lack of discussion amongst people. It's like you're either on one side or the other, and you exist in those echo chambers usually through social media. And so I feel like it's kind of eaten away at our ability to share different ideas without attacking each other. And just,
Yeah.
sometimes there's ideas on the opposite side that are good ideas and they're worth exploring. That's why I've
Yeah.
always, like, in terms of government, I hate that it's sort of boiled down to just like this bipartisan thing where it's like you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. It's like there's good ideas on both and there's bad ideas on both. Like, why would you ever want to just completely subscribe to one or the other? It's a weird. I mean, I could see, I guess, leaning more one way or
Yeah.
the other, but it's like that's why I've never been able to register as anything other than an independent because I'm like, I don't really
Yeah.
want to affiliate myself with either party. Like, there's some things that I like and dislike on either side of the aisle, and I feel like I don't want to subscribe to just one of them. So,
I think
uh,
because people want to win, they're like,
mhm,
and that's not a bad idea. Like if you're like, well, mostly I want conservative values, and I know if I like don't pick a side, then essentially I might as well not do anything because it is so bipartisan. The only way to win is um to push toward one side or the other
mhm.
and not have a nuanced approach to it because ultimately it either gets voted for or it doesn't. So it is black and white. And but when you think about the actual concepts, the concepts are complicated because they involve society and laws, and that's not easy. That's really complicated stuff. But at some point, you have to take you don't have to, but like people just take a stand. They just go, well, I'll take the risks of the negative aspects of it and I'll just promote it because it's part of my side.
Mhm.
It's interesting. It's like, I think if there was more accountability after a law gets made or a legislative thing happens, there's more like discussion afterward, then there'd be more reason to be more invested in each individual thing instead of just going, okay, we're going to say this is what we're doing, and then we just do that for the next 5-10 years. But if there was a lot of oversight and things like that, maybe people would be more invested in the whole process of like making a good law, and finding out what its effects are and its consequences and things like that, as opposed to just saying, well, I'm pro-gun and any law against it is horrible, even if its effects are positive. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like if it was more like, okay, here's the actual science behind the effects of that law, and it's been unsuccessful, so we're going to get rid of that law. It always is like a push toward a new law, and then we don't hear about it. You don't hear about, you know, uh, discontinuing something or like the negative effects until 20 years later, when you find out that all these people are in jail and it's a really bad idea and now it's not a law anymore. So
Maybe
that's
one day we'll be able to just abolish this whole party system, because I feel like it's like a sports team at this point. It's like, oh, my team won, and like I feel like it creates such a strong bias that you just don't even consider. Like I feel like a lot of times people just vote for things whether it was introduced by a Democrat or a Republican. It's like, oh, this is a Republican law. I don't even care what it says. I'm just going to vote for it because that's my
yeah,
team.
well, that's how people
And
vote for president.
yeah, exactly.
Almost completely. Like it doesn't matter what they're all about or what they might end up doing, but it's all just posturing and lying anyway. Like, or it's like, hey, I'm gonna do this, but whatever, you're
But
just
really,
gonna do whatever you want when you're in there.
yeah.
They just do whatever they want most of the time anyway. So I just don't buy it. I think
Yeah.
it's smoke and mirrors mostly. And then some law gets passed in the midst of this big long bill, and then there's a little phrase in there that somebody gets that actually matters. And I don't know, it's a complex situation.
It is. I
Hmm.
didn't realize we were gonna start this episode so politically,
I
talking
didn't
about
either.
social media and government and
I didn't either. But you were
oh
talking about
these
your phone listening to
oh
you,
yeah,
and I
these
think
thoughts
there's
are so fleeting.
I think there's a it just seems paranoid. Like I get maybe it hears certain things or whatever, but like I say a lot of dumb shit all day, and my phone, I can't imagine anybody's using that. It's too much information. There's no way that any one entity, any algorithm, any computer can actually deal with hundreds of millions of people talking around their phones. It doesn't know even who's talking around my phone. It could be
Mhm.
my fucking neighbor, they don't know. So I just think it's just interesting that people are like think that Big Brother is watching them. It's more like fucking Google's watching you for sure. But
That's what I mean. I don't mean in
I'm
like a
not worried about Google.
conspiratorial, like I'm not like, oh
No,
God,
I
I
know.
gotta fucking turn my phone off before I have a conversation. I wouldn't be surprised. Like I don't even know for sure. I just
I
wouldn't be
wouldn't be surprised
surprised
either.
if it's like,
I'm
oh,
totally open to
on
it.
this
Yeah.
day, Dark Souls was said fucking 27 times. Like obviously this person, there's a connection there. So we
Yeah.
should maybe show them some of that stuff.
It's
I don't think
I
that
think
they're
it's
like,
totally possible too.
mhm.
I just don't I've never seen any evidence that makes that a really compelling argument. I think the more compelling thing is that I actually Google things. I actually look at things on the internet, and I think that's just easier to track. It's more deliberate as well. I'm acting as opposed to just randomly saying things outside of my phone. Um, but my brother is also like he's trying to get away from like other Google oriented things, and he like got a new email because he doesn't like the idea of one company just having all this power and then being able to like alter the way you do things, and
Mhm.
force you to pay for something that you don't want to pay for but now you kind of need, kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, you don't. Yeah, I mean, you don't really need technology. We existed for thousands of years without it. It just makes your life very convenient, and it's so integrated into our society that
Yeah.
you
Well,
almost have to have it in a
we
way
need
that
it. We
you can
need
definitely get away with
communication
that. Hmm.
systems. We need technology in the way of uh like transportation needs it
Hmm.
now. There's no way to accomplish the massive amount of like coordination without the technology we have, but we don't need Facebook.
No,
That's not,
no.
that's not technology. Facebook is a specific, out outcropping of software. It's not
Well,
like the most important thing.
it's just a company that is making money off of you, period. It's
Yeah.
giving you a service, which is connecting with others, and it's taking your data and your ad
Yeah.
revenue and all this
And
shit
getting
and
you
making money.
trying to
Like,
get you to buy stuff.
yeah. So,
People are allowed to buy stuff.
mhm.
It's interesting. I was
I
talking,
just,
sorry.
I just deleted Facebook because I just didn't really use it that much. And so I was
Yeah.
like, if I can just like strip one thing out of my
Yeah.
life, I'll just
You
get
don't
rid of
need
that. Yeah,
how many different apps of other
exactly.
people's information do you need to have? It's just ridiculous.
Uh,
It doesn't really benefit your life to like know what a million other people are doing with their lives.
mhm.
Do your own thing with your own fucking life. Like
Yeah.
that's how, I mean, or don't. I don't give a fuck, but I'm not trying to spend all day on fucking looking at other people's lives. Although
Well, that's
I do, but I
I
shouldn't.
was gonna say that's when people ask me, they're like, "How do you find time to like play all these video games, spend time with like your wife, write books, read books? Like, how do you find time to do all this?" And I'm like, "That's because I'm not on fucking social media." Like, I don't think people sometimes realize how much time they spend just sitting on the couch, staring, like scrolling
Yeah,
through
or
their
watching
phone, like it's
TV or whatever.
hours.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if that's what you want to do with your life, it's your fucking life. I'm just saying, when people ask me how the hell are you able to do all that? I'm like, because I fucking use my time to do the things I really want to do and to accomplish things instead
Just
of,
set your phone down.
yeah, exactly. I don't
Just
really
set it
look at
down.
my phone that much at all, really, other than like when people are texting me. I feel like I'll scroll through a social media like Twitter or something like once or twice a day just to kind of see what's going on out there and then
Yeah.
move on with my life.
You're so enlightened. You're
I'm
such a
fucking
better
zen,
person than
bro.
anybody
I'm
else.
so wise.
Yeah, that's
Oh
true.
man,
I wish I could be like you one day. In
you'll get
certain
there.
ways, that's very true, actually.
I think it's the guilt that I feel if I like spend a day not really feeling like I accomplished anything, like I feel this overwhelming sense of guilt. So it's like sometimes I'm like, I just gotta get this
That's
done so that I don't
that
feel
probably
guilty
has something
later.
to do with it. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that happens all the time. I feel guilty, but I feel like that's because I haven't there are like things I need I like that are out there that I'm like, oh, why didn't I do that?
mhm. Also, we
Just
could die at
wasted my
any
day.
moment, so it's, you gotta live every day like it's your last, as they say.
Well, that's a tough one.
It is tough. Like
You
nobody
don't
does that.
actually want
Nobody
to do
actually
that.
does that.
That would be
No.
like you just like go, I mean, who knows what you would end up doing, but like you could have some pretty bad consequences when tomorrow shows up and you're not dead.
That's what I mean. I'd be like broke. I'd be
Be
like,
in
oh, I fucking
jail.
blew all my money
Yeah,
yesterday because I assumed I
exactly.
was gonna die. So I'm like, I have no
Yeah.
money to pay my bills now. I went on
There's
a
no
shopping spree.
that's the key to life is that there's no ultimate rule. There's no ultimate like, oh, just do this and you're fine. It's not how it works.
Mhm.
We're we're too simple thinking. We always just want a solution. That's like 1 + 1 = 2.
And we always want instant gratification, usually as well. That's our other bugaboo.
Yeah, but I mean, like, well, that makes sense. It makes sense to want things now, but it's irrational to think that you could possibly get it.
Mhm.
So when you get older and you start to plan ahead, then you start realizing how things work, and things don't work right now. You don't get to just have things right now. And I guess people who do learn that younger probably do better. That can plan ahead when they're 20 instead of 30.
Mhm.
But that's not me.
It's
Um,
okay.
I was talking to some 20-year-olds, some guys from work,
Oh, okay. I
and
was like, what were you doing talking to 20-year-olds? But here we are. Okay.
I
I mean, they're
work.
not minors, so it's not super weird.
Yeah, I don't know, but people are so fucking weird about age in America.
I think it's because
Like
there's so many pedophiles out there. That's why
there
they make it really.
aren't that many pedophiles.
They make it so
There's
difficult.
there's probably more dudes out there who just don't want to be considered a pedophile than they're actually pedophiles.
Oh
Like
yeah, I know.
there's probably more
So,
people worried about being called a pedophile than there are
that's why I don't
pedophiles.
talk to kids at all. Like even
I
if I
know.
know them, even if it's like
Yeah.
my nephew, I'm like I like don't want to be left in a room alone with you because I just don't want there to be an
Yeah.
opportunity for
What's
somebody to try to say I
what's
did something.
what's probably sad about that whole situation is that young people are looking to older generations to learn and to be validated and to figure things out, but the older generation is like, I can't be around you, kid, because people are going to make fun of me.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's
Or
really
you could just, or
interesting.
you could just say that, Uncle Tom took me to his fun place, and then people are just like, "What?" And really, it's like Uncle Tom has like a cool arcade in his garage, and they played video games all afternoon. But people hear that and they're like, "Oh God, what did Uncle Tom
I
do to
just
you?"
don't. I think that it's crazy. I think it's crazy. I think
Yeah,
that people are just catastrophizing everything. They just want everything to be a fucking, quiet place movie where it's fucking ah, I don't
do
know.
you
But
think?
anyway,
I wonder if our society's obsession with entertainment is
of
part of
course
the
it is.
reason why.
Of
Because
course
like
it is.
we watch all these movies and read all these stories where the worst possible
It,
thing is happening all the time, and
if
so
you
you
if
just
like if you look at if you look at experiences as a kind of like a graph, and you have these little blips in America, if you're watching entertainment and news and whatever, your spikes are like constant. There's constantly a spike of like something bad or something like extreme happening. Bloop, 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 constant stuff. But in real life, it's like this. It's just a flat line. Life is like super boring. Like
yeah.
actual
Occasionally, you
life
get
is
some good
super
news.
fucking boring.
Yeah, occasionally you get a little good news. Sometimes you find out you have cancer. I mean, there's little
Yeah, of
spikes, but
course, there's ups
definitely,
and
yeah.
downs, but like how many big spikes are you going to have in a lifetime if you're living a fairly decent life? You're going to have, a
I don't
few
know how
big
much sex do you
things.
have in a week. I mean, really,
Oh,
that's the only
that's the only
barometer. I feel
spike you
like
care about. That's the only boner spikes.
when you're married for as long as I've been married, that's the only currency that matters is sex. I mean,
You're just like waiting for the calendar.
yeah, exactly.
It's Tuesday, yes, fucking
It's
finally.
like, oh, you need me to do a favor, then you have to pay, and vice versa. If I need
Oh
you need to
my.
do me a favor,
Well,
then
now
I have to pay.
we're
So
learning about
yeah, there's a
Channing's
sex
prostitution
there's a sex trade in my
relationship.
marriage just between it's only my wife and I are the only two that conduct transactions,
Yeah,
and we only conduct them with each other.
it's a
So
limited market.
yeah,
It's a
very limited.
very narrow market
Hmm.
field. But
I see advertisements on my Twitter page all the time from my wife
my
about doing
wife,
favors for sex. So because
oh,
my phone
she's like,
hears us
well,
talking about it
she just
and
sends you a link to
navigating
an
it.
Amazon thing, and then there's like a picture of a finger in a hole, and you're like, okay,
Take
fine.
out the trash.
Jesus. Yeah, it is funny because guys will do anything for sex. I mean, we don't care about paying for it. I don't care how it happens.
That's what
Just hook it up. You have access. You have the thing. I want the thing. What do you want for the thing? I would like the thing.
I very rarely I think would you find a man who would like turn down sex with somebody. Like that's why I tell my wife all the time. I'm like, I don't think there's any point where I would be like, nah. I mean, there'd have to be something really. Maybe if I was like really violently sick or something, I just physically would not be able to do anything.
Of
But
course, yeah.
it's like for the most part, yeah. Like
Men want to have
if
sex.
she came in right now
Yeah, you
and
would
was like,
shut
I'd
this
be like,
off.
oh hey, I gotta step away. I gotta go to the bathroom, and then
Yeah,
I'll just
yeah,
come back later.
yeah.
Just
Of
leave you hanging
course,
for a
because
minute.
it's not going to happen. That's how that's why you would do it. Because if it did happen, it would be too
Yeah, it'd
amazing.
be like yeah, exactly. It'd be like, oh my god, my life
Yeah.
is a porn film right now,
Oh my
right in
God.
this moment. Strike while
Yeah,
the
it's so
iron's hot.
funny. Yeah, porn is a ultimate like look into male fantasy,
Hmm.
and it has very little to do with what women want.
And it leads to a lot of disappointment for men in the future too, especially if like you
Of
grow up
course.
with porn and you're like, oh cool, this is what it's like. This is my reference point. Then
Yeah.
you get down to it, and you have some moments where it's like similar, where it's kind of cool, but for the most part, it's just a rigorous act of two hot, sweaty bodies sort of slapping into each other until you both climax. And there's some discomfort. Sometimes you're like, ooh, my foot's like cramping. We gotta change this. You know what I mean? Like it's just a lot of fucking sounds and smells, and it's really something. Anyway.
Anything else to add about that? So what I was going to say is I was talking to some 20-year-olds
Okay,
and
right.
they were talking like I don't know what came up, but he one of them was like all the like the majority of boomers are the problem. Old people are the problem. Boomers are the issue. And I was like, of course boomers have a, they do stuff and they can cause problems, but that's like this huge group of people who like you don't know at all and who can't be just stereotyped into one action. Like not all boomers are like responsible for climate change. Not all boomers are responsible for, you know, things not changing in life. And it was just interesting to see a perspective that was like, the young generation knows what's going on. We accept change. We know what's going on. And I was just like, well, this just more nuanced than that. It's like, there's like, what are you saying? Like, are you saying that you just figured out all of, uh, political and social wrongs and it's all the boomers' fault and all the young people are going to save the world? Like that's what everyone's thought for the last 1,000 years.
Mhm.
That's not it's not actually what's going on. That's just you thinking that the young people have it figured out, and change is kind of indicative of the younger generation because they're living through that change in a more um, salient way, and the old people seem to represent the old way. But so what? What some of the old stuff is great, some of the new stuff is great, some of the new stuff sucks, some of the old stuff sucks. What are we getting at? What are we trying to actually fix and change and make better?
Well, everybody just wants to blame somebody else for their problems. Very few people can just take accountability for, what's going on in
Well,
their
and you
lives.
don't have to take accountability for all of society, and you don't
Hmm.
have to give one person accountability for all of society. The society is a massively complex series of events. It's very, very complicated. No one's in charge. No one knows what's going on. We're all making everything up and trying to act confident about ourselves so that we don't
Hmm.
get beat up.
Yeah, and then you die. So it's just,
Yeah.
you just spend your whole life living a lie and creating
Yeah,
a
kind of.
persona, and then you die.
I think that's why like yeah, it's like the pursuit of enlightenment is like just accepting that you're full of shit most of the time. Like you don't know what's going on.
I think if people
Like
just
what
all realized, right, that you're just a very microscopic cog in
Mhm.
this like vast machine and you don't matter. Like you don't matter to anybody outside of like your close friends and family. The rest of the world, like 99.999% of the world does not give a shit about you. They don't even probably know you really exist.
They
So it's
shouldn't
like,
know. How would they
exactly.
know?
So it's like if everybody just recognize that about themselves and realize that they don't matter, I feel like the world would be a little better. Like people would be
Well,
less
I don't know.
entitled and
I think narcissism has a major role to play in action and in acting and doing things. And so if you feel like you don't matter, you might not act and then things wouldn't happen. But I think we do things so much that just we think are really helpful but aren't anyway. So it's
mhm.
like, I don't know, it's interesting. People are very they're very reactive, you know. Just I'm going to go do this thing over here. I'm going to just do this and act. I think we just think that we're more in control than we are. And so we give ourselves the credit more than we should. But whatever. Welcome to the Fleeting Thoughts podcast. This is
Well, that was
me
a
and
great intro.
that's
What a
you.
great intro.
Yeah, 30 minutes
Mhm.
later. How's it going? What's been up last week?
Oh, not much, man. Just working and writing. The
Working and writing,
the
working
old
and writing.
razzle dazzle.
The old
It's a 3-day
shake
weekend
and bake.
because Memorial Day tomorrow, so I have tomorrow off, which is kind of
Yeah.
nice. Got a little bit longer weekend.
You got any
Um,
plans? Any Memorial Day, Memorial weekend? You going out to the beach? Anything like that?
no, we actually have a trip planned for the coast at the end of the month because I'm taking
Nice.
a week off for my birthday. But no, this weekend is just kind of just hanging out. I mean,
Since you're not on Facebook, when's your birthday? Because I will not know if
oh,
you're not on.
July 3rd.
Oh, okay, that's very soon.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, and
Cool.
we're gonna take the dogs for a walk after we're done doing this, and that's kind of what we did yesterday. We took the dogs out because it's been really nice lately,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it's supposed to be nice this weekend.
I'm doing laundry and shit today. So it's just some chores around the house, hanging out with the dogs, relaxing, just enjoying the
The
weekend. How about you?
dogs.
Anything exciting this last week?
No, I mean, no, not really. I didn't have anything planned, and I just worked. I worked yesterday, and I realized I'm off, and then I was like off, and I was like, okay, I should have planned to go do
Mhm.
stuff. So I might go out to my brother's property today and go plink around and say hi and see what's up. And he's got a property, so there's always like stuff to do out there.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I mean, when you're starting the next Jonestown, you gotta, yeah, there's
yeah,
a lot of projects you gotta
yeah, we
knock
got to
off.
make a bunker. We got to
Uh-huh.
make a,
A
we
pavilion.
got to prep. We got
Yeah.
to a pavilion. We
Build
got to
little
get a
cottages,
gazebo. We've
get a
got
plantation
to
started, some fields and
we got to
crops.
start impregnating the women.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a whole. We got to start a new society out there.
Yeah, so you really do need to start planning. It's disappointing that you didn't spend any of the week planning, because if you don't kind of go into each weekend with a plan of attack as to how you're going to build your
I know.
compound, then it's going to take a lot longer than it needs to. Got to be organized, my friend.
Yeah, and the apocalypse is coming, so we got to be ready
Hmm.
for that shit. I got to get
Hmm.
some juice and some poison ready just in case. We all got to kill ourselves for some Haley Bop comment, Haley Bop,
Yeah, it's
Haley Billy Bop, Haley Bop,
is it I
Haley
heard
Billy
that the
Bop.
next apocalypse is going to be February 22nd, 2022. So it's the
That's
day
pretty
of
soon.
twos and zeros. So I mean, you have a little bit of time, but
Oh,
not a lot.
two, oh, two, any,
Hmm.
two, two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good. No, I don't have no, I don't have anything. I just realized I have like no food in my fridge. I was like, oh, I can't eat my normal yogurt breakfast. So I was like, fuck it.
I know, how spoiled are we as a society? Because Vanessa and I, we just grocery shop for the week, right? We just buy whatever we're going to eat that week, and then the next week we do it again. And I'm like, man, if there's ever like some kind of crisis or something, we're not prepared at all, because we only have like a week's of supply of food at
Oh
any given
yeah.
point in time. Like we don't have a bunch of canned goods or anything, and
Yeah, I
it's
think that's smart to have like just canned goods, like not what you're doing. You're doing is
Mhm.
dumb.
Yeah,
But
exactly, for sure.
but like just like every time you go to the store, buy like an extra can of chili or soup, and then you'll have it because you never know if the power goes out or the roads get blocked or whatever.
Hmm.
I think that's true. I don't think you need crazy amount, because if it gets too crazy, you're just going to have to kill people anyway. You're going to have to travel, and you're
Well,
going
I
to have
think
to
part of
go
it is that I know that we're just going to
somewhere
die
else.
anyway in that crisis, because
Oh
Vanessa's a
yeah.
type 1 diabetic. So she
Oh yeah,
has to
you're
have insulin to
fucked.
survive. So
But it doesn't
she
mean
could,
you have to die.
no, but she could carry on for like a little while, but eventually you're going to run out of insulin, and people are going to
Yeah.
raid pharmacies like right away.
Yeah.
So, I'll kill her and then kill myself, because I don't have to deal with it. How
Hmm.
come when there's an apocalypse, people want to live? Like, what are you living for? Like,
Because that's how we are.
yeah, just if your every day of existence is just trying to eke out another day, it's like, what the fuck is the point? You're not even
How
having a good time.
how
Like,
come
just,
when there's not apocalypse, people want to live?
I don't know. Like,
It's
why do
crazy.
any of
Why are
us
we
ever
alive?
want to live? I
Life is
mean,
such pain, Your
my
Highness.
life lately hasn't been pain. My life's fine. I have a good time. I'm doing what I want to do. I live comfortably for the most part. But yeah, that's why if there's an apocalypse, I'm like, what the fuck? I don't even know how to fucking skin an animal. I don't want to
You
deal with
don't.
it. I'll just kill myself.
You got to learn how to skin an animal. That's why you got to start killing the neighbor's dogs.
Great. This is the first episode of the podcast where it's like the origin story of me becoming a serial killer. Was your advice
You're
on
too
killing
old.
the
You're too
neighbor's
old.
dogs?
You're too old to become a serial killer.
That's
Psycho
not true. There's
psychopath No, psychopaths can maybe get caught when they're older, but then get but you're not like you would have to have done that when you're a kid and like started getting real interested in all that. Maybe you wouldn't kill
I feel like
somebody for a
there's
while, but you would have been
you can
showing
have some. I
signs by now.
literally just listened to uh serial killer, the podcast Serial Killers is literally what it's called. But they just did an episode on Bruce McArthur, who actually was a more recent serial killer. He got caught in like 2011 or something. Anyway, but he didn't start killing people until he was like in his 50s.
Yeah, I could see
So
that, but I'm sure that his personality didn't just I mean, I guess if you get a head injury, your personality can change rapidly, but most people's personality is pretty ingrained by like,
mhm.
pretty young.
Spend a
So
lot of your life masquerading,
yeah, I think that people hide
pretending.
themselves, especially in society. Like, people are disguising who they are all the time. like constantly. Society does
Mhm.
that. That's how society fucking functions, is we don't go around touching each other's genitals all the time when we totally want to.
Well, we just got a little insight into who you really are.
That's what I'm disguising. No, it's mostly I'm just looking at genitals all the time. I'm just looking at
Whoa.
boobs and butts, boobs and
Mhm.
butts. I'm just my whole like concentration is just like, don't get caught looking at boobs and butts
I thought when you said genitals, you were like
and faces.
you were trying to decide how many men walk around with socks in their pants. You're just like,
Oh yeah, I'm looking at
that bulge is a little
bulges.
too large.
Yeah,
I'm not saying
I'm a
you're only
bulge.
looking at bulges.
What is it called?
A
Like
bulge
a
connoisseur.
no. Yes, yes, yes. I'm like, oh, that's a Nike crew cut sock in that one. Would it be so weird if we found out that like 90% of men were putting socks in their underwear, and like I'm not, so I didn't realize it, but most people are. And
What's
it's
interesting
a secret.
about doing that is like, what do you do? Let's say you're putting a sock in your underwear. You go on a date. Date goes great, right? The woman's
So
looking at
good.
you. You get
You have
you
to
know
pull
you
it
get
out
back to
first.
yeah. You're
You have to
and
go,
then
oh, I'm pulling my socks off, and
but
you
then
just
if
have
your
three
dick's
socks
really
there.
small, it's like an obvious lie.
It's too late. She's already
Yeah,
there. You've
it'd just be
won.
weird. She just, I guess, if she's too uncomfortable to say something like, "Ooh, wow, I thought you would be much bigger," based off of.
I think once you get there, it's like your sexual passion takes over, and there's like you're just in the motion. Like
Mm,
especially in a first date or whatever. Like it's so exciting that like once you're touching genitals, your body just goes, nope, this is happening.
mhm.
And then something
And then
really interesting,
afterwards,
something really
you're
bad
like,
has to happen.
"Whoa."
Of course,
Yeah.
afterwards, you're always like, oh, what
Once you
is
come down off the
going on here?
psychopath high of
Yeah,
hormones,
yeah,
you're
the
like,
psycho
"Ooh,
high.
what just happened?"
Yeah, I think one of the best mental trances you can have is sexual, like where you lose yourself and you forget what you are and who you are, and it's just
Could you
all
imagine if
animalistic
you
and all
retained
that.
your full like reasoning and
No, it'd
logic?
be
Well,
horrible.
yeah, nobody would ever have sex because you're like,
Yeah,
I mean, we're about to just like sort of grind into each
well, it'd be
other
while you're doing it,
awkwardly,
you would be
and
analyzing it. It would be
yeah,
super
you
annoying.
would never come. You would
No,
it would just
no.
eventually be like, you know what? I'm done. Yeah, this
Yeah, I don't even know.
where I'm
Let's,
fucking dripping sweat on you. It's like
yeah.
90 degrees in here.
Yeah. Well, and you'd be thinking like, oh, are you going to get pregnant? And then what are we going to do? And then we
Yeah,
have no money. And then I
I,
don't
we
even know
really
you that well.
we
Oh,
really
maybe
both should
she's
have
going to,
had an
yeah.
STD test before we did this. Like
Oh
we
my
should have went to
God.
the clinic and just
Yeah.
done a quick check.
Welcome to my world where it's
Mhm.
all just over analyzed and under analyzed.
Well, thankfully, when you know you're in the throes of passion, you're literally in the throes of passion. Like
Yeah, I think so.
your brain fucking turns off, and it is all
It just
being
goes
governed
goes
by primal.
subconscious. Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes to the primal, parts, which is um
Which is
why
the
the whole thing is
weirdest.
like it's like a trance. It's like you just went into some alternate universe.
And it's always weird because the moment you orgasm,
Yeah, it sort of
you
goes
literally
away.
you like
Your
come
brain comes
down off
back.
of it like right away,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you're like, oh wait,
Yeah.
why did
You
I
realize
say
where you
that?
are.
Like, what was I do? Like, why was I
Yeah.
making that sound? Like, what's going on?
Why was I making that
Where
sound?
are we? It's
Or
like it's like
why did I
waking
hear the
up.
word Bob in the middle of that? I don't remember, but somebody said Bob, and I don't know why. It might have been me.
Did I tell her
Uh,
she's a cute red nose? Like,
yeah.
what does
Why
that
did I
mean?
do that? Then you feel super dumb. Yeah, I think that's funny. I think those kind of things are interesting. Like when you're like when you're playing sports and you go into the zone and you sort of are not you're not
Adrenaline's
using
just firing.
your frontal cortex to analyze what's going on anymore, and so you don't have that constant observative you don't have
The
that
word nowadays, anyway.
observational aspect of your consciousness, and you're not observing yourself anymore, and you're just acting in the world, and then you come out of that and then you realize what you've done and you're trying to recreate it like a dream. I think those are very interesting things. That's why I like when you do certain drugs, that happens.
Mhm.
When you get I think music can do that, like when you are very wrapped up in music and you don't think about it and you're just doing that's trance that you can go into, or dancing or singing, or there's
Yeah,
certain
any like
things,
kind of
certain
artistic
activities.
endeavor. Like
Yeah, a
even when
lot of
I'm
artistic
writing,
endeavors. Yeah,
like
yeah, when you're
there's
writing, for sure.
passages when I reread them later, I'm like, I don't even fucking remember writing this because like I was just in a zone and it was
Yeah,
just kind of happening. And
yeah.
Very
I
interesting.
I think that's your what's going on all the time is that. And then on
Mhm.
top of that is your your kind of the thing we call consciousness, or your observer is on top of that most of the waking day, if you're, have enough energy. But then, even when you get tired, you lose that. And but you're always there. You're some part of you is always acting, always alive, always solving problems and doing things. You just aren't always aware of it. It's interesting.
The brain is a fascinating beast.
So fascinating.
I tried
Oh,
to
the
tame it.
brain. Try to
Beat my
tame the
ass.
brain. I'm going to do a new seminar where I tame the brain. All right, we're going to tame the brain. Let's get into, okay, you can never do drugs. You can never have sex. You can
When it gets
never
out of line,
masturbate.
you just bite it.
Yep, you beat it with a fucking stick. You hit yourself in the head and you say, no, brain, I'm in control. No,
I'll
no,
put you to sleep,
subconscious.
brain. I'll beat you until you're asleep.
Yeah, and then who's the boss then?
Who's really in control then?
Yeah, I
That's
think
right.
that
I am. I'm the
yeah,
boss.
don't even
Me.
fucking worry about. Oh, I'm going English.
I have a hard time with that. When I do Australian English, they start to
Hmm.
commingle.
There's
It
a lot of
just
similar
mhm.
ways of saying vowels, but you have to go back to like that questioning
Australian.
questioning inflection at the end. Right, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, isn't that right? Hold on
Aus-
there.
Australian always
Fucking
makes me think
fine.
of like it's like the
Hold on
redneck
there.
version of English,
I feel
of like
like
the
we've
English
said that
language.
before.
I
I
have
feel
we.
like no one in Australia wants to hear that.
It's a joke. They can chill out. If there's anybody in Australia listening and they're about to fucking grab their
I
crocodile
think
Dundee knife and come find me,
it's
don't
like
worry about
it's
it,
like
man.
the Canadian version of English. It's
Hmm.
like, man, it's a little off.
Hmm.
They're the Canadian version of England English, and
Well, I feel like,
we're English. Canada's the Canada version of English,
but we
and
have
then
like
there's
our
other
own
English.
Southern accent here, where
We
there's
have
like
tons of
different
dialects.
slang, and
Yeah,
it's really like Southern is like my favorite one to do when I'm making
that's
fun of things because
yeah,
it's just when
because it
you're
sounds
talking
dumb.
about this, you just kind of sound a little dumb.
Well, that's fucking right, because
Well,
you are. Well,
there
like Matthew
it's a
McConaughey and such.
well, it's one of those like
Also Stoner.
dialects that can sound really retarded. Oh, sorry, hard R on that one. And
Yeah,
then
you went for it.
and then
If you had
like
said it in a southern accent, it wouldn't have been so bad. But
but it's either you sound that way or you sound like kind of badass, like a
of
tough
course, because you
cowboy
can,
type of guy.
yeah.
It all depends on like how deep your voice is and like what you're
Hmm.
saying and the
Yeah.
cadence to it. There's
Hmm.
like
How confident you sound.
mhm.
Yeah, and like the actual words. Yeah,
It's been a while since I said retarded. Like it felt
right.
kind of nice to
Felt
get it
right.
out for a second.
Yeah,
Like it's like one of those words I feel like that just burns in your chest sometimes where it's like uh,
that's the word you want to say,
yeah,
but
you
you're
want to
you're
say it,
stopping
but
yourself.
what's funny is because when I was a kid, everything was retarded. Like you called your friends retarded all the time.
Hmm.
If you were playing a game and the game was
But
pissing off, this
yeah.
fucking game's retarded. Like, and now
Well,
you can't say it
when I was a
anymore.
kid, we used to say everything was gay,
That too.
and
Yep. That's a good one.
so it's like gay retarded stuff happening constantly, and it was
My
just
friend.
a negative thing. I was thinking about like calling someone gay. Like, why would that be a negative thing for somebody, right? And it's not
Mhm.
negative because being gay is negative. It's negative because being straight and being thought of as gay means that people won't have sex with you. And so if your friends are calling you gay, that means that if anyone were to find out that everyone's thinking you're gay, if people think you're gay and you're not, it means you can't have sex,
Mhm.
right? Because all the
Wow.
females will
You
think
really
that
thought about
you're.
this when you were a kid, didn't you?
No, I thought about this
Oh.
like like a
Right
couple
now.
days
I'm
ago.
thinking about it right now.
No, I'm really
My
trying to figure
thoughts
this
are
out.
just coming out of my mouth.
No. I actually was thinking about this the other day, that like, why would anyone care if somebody said that they were gay if they're not gay? And why would a gay person care if somebody said they were gay if they were gay? So if a gay person's gay and they say they're gay, that's fine. But if a straight person is called gay by other people because our reputations matter, then the person who is straight, who is being, obviously their ego is making them
I feel
like
like it's
worried about
also
what people
attack
think,
on
but
I feel like
but
it's an attack on your masculinity too. Like,
of
because
course it is,
like if somebody's calling you, you're like, I'm
because
not
if you're
like an
gay,
effeminate,
you don't
blah blah
want
blah.
to. Well, that's part of it, is like
Hmm.
the gay stereotype of being effeminate, but that's also, that also just is unattractive to straight females. And a male's like preoccupation from like the age of 12 to the age of like
90.
95 is to have sex and with females. And if people think you're gay, and they actually think you're gay, and women think you're gay, or like they find out that you're gay but you're not, then you can't mate. And the main thing that people are doing is trying to mate. And so I think that's why that is an effective thing, is you're saying, oh, you're never going to have sex and people shouldn't have sex with you. And it's like this whole, and then you're like, well, I want to have sex though, but it sucks.
Do
So
you
I
also
think
think
it's
that
like, it's not like
maybe,
an irrational, just horrible epitaph. Obviously, it marginalizes actual gay people and makes them seem like they're bad and they're not part of society, because our main version of society is straight people because
but
of
do you
sex.
also
But
think, because I feel like, because I remember when I was a kid, which would have been like mid 90s, went like elementary school. And we used to do the same thing, like everything was retarded, if it was stupid or
because if people
whatever.
think you're retarded, you
And
can't get a
then
job.
yeah, and then we used to say gay all the time too. Oh, that's gay. You're such a fag. Like my friends and I would call each other
Yeah,
fags all the time, like when we were making
of
fun of each
course.
other.
Yeah, we did
And
too.
I'm like, I wonder if part of that too is on top of what you're saying, but it's like mid early 90s. So we're coming out of the 80s, right? Which
Yeah,
was when the AIDS epidemic was happening,
sure.
which
That's
was linked
another
to
big part of it. Sure.
homosexuality. And so like there's like this negative connotation to homosexuality in the 80s
Yeah,
in our society as a whole. So I almost feel like
sure.
that's part of the reason why you would call people gay or fags, is it was already considered like a negative thing. So it was like you making fun of somebody by
Yeah,
calling them a negative stereotypical type of name. I think, as well as
sure. It's
the
just like
association
calling
of.
somebody a braggart or some
Mhm.
fucking, or a dullard or an idiot or anything. It's just the common way to marginalize other people, to like, to demean other people. It's in a lot of male culture has to do with hierarchies and dominance behavior.
Mhm.
I'm dominant, so I'm going to make fun of you and see what happens, and then if you fight back, I might find out that I'm not as dominant. So that's a huge part of especially young male interactions, is trying to figure out who's going to be the one at the top. And that is found out through verbal and physical aggression. And I
There's
think
a
that
weird,
lessens a lot when you're older. Like you
there's
just
like
go, okay,
this.
now I know where I'm at.
Yeah, as I say, because there's like this almost strange fear when you, especially when you're a young kid. Because I remember feeling this way is when people called you something that you weren't, you felt extra defensive because you didn't want the rest of people to
Yeah.
think that you were this thing, and you
Reputation is a huge deal when you're young,
and so
or
you're
all the
like
time.
worried about it, like, oh, a bunch of people are calling me gay and everybody's gonna think I'm gay and I'm not gay, and so
Yeah.
like
Well,
you
and
just get
it's,
really worried about like what everybody
yeah.
was thinking about you.
And
Whereas
it
if
all,
people, somebody
yeah.
called me gay now, I'd be like, I'm not, but okay. Or I mean, if you depends on, are you using the
Yeah.
dictionary
Which
definition
version?
of gay? Because
Well,
I feel pretty gay right
well,
now. Like I'm feeling good.
let's see here.
I've used gay like in my writing, and I always use it in the connotation of it meaning happy. I'll be like, oh
Oh,
yeah,
really?
to dance gaily. I don't, because that's what the fucking word means. Just because
Well,
we took it and bastardized it
and
into something
if you
else.
think about the stereotypical male isn't having fun and being expressive and things like that and
Yeah, we
being
can't. We have to
gay.
be tough.
And so the male who was running around being a little bit more effeminate, or just doing things that were a little bit more kind of expressive, emotionally expressive, they were like, oh, that person's having fun, I can't believe it, they must be gay. And then gay gets mixed in with homosexual. It's just an interesting, like, we have these really um these shortcuts that we make that aren't always applicable, but they work for a lot of cases,
Mhm.
and so they end up being spread around the society.
Well, real men,
Words,
we don't laugh.
we
We
don't
just
have
eat.
no fun, hell no.
We eat steak and we look for mates.
Well,
We look for women.
we kill animals, and we
Then
make
we fuck
babies.
women. Yep, we
Mm-hmm.
fuck women. Because we
Mm-hmm.
got to
We're
have a lot of
super
strong
attractive.
young like
Mm-hmm.
children running
Yeah.
around, and
Well,
got to
and
eat
and
lots of.
back when the mortality rate was very high, the societies probably were very interested in mating. Like that was a huge issue. Like you had to make sure people were
Mhm.
having babies, and just to
Yeah, it
keep
was more
the
likely than
clan
not that
going.
your children would
So
die.
if somebody was gay in the society and they weren't having babies, it probably posed this really tough situation for the for the people who wanted to be in charge and all that. And like,
I played with this
I don't
idea
know,
like
it's pretty
one
rare.
day,
So
which I thought would be kind of interesting as like a setting for a story, but I was like, what if nature decided, because there's too many, like the planet's overpopulated and it couldn't kill us with diseases because our science advances and we are able to create vaccines so quickly. I was like, what if nature just found a way through the evolutionary process to just start making a lot of more people homosexual, and so then they're not interested in having sex with the opposite sex and then creating more children, and then by this process you
well,
have a slow population decline. That would just be like an interesting like evolutionary thing, like where like over time homosexuality was a far more common occurrence because it
because
was like a biological survival
yeah,
mechanism,
well,
because it
like
anyway.
ecologically, species do things to regulate populations,
Hmm.
and they do them subconsciously, and sometimes the environment kind of does it for you. But in a society that is super successful, in a species that's super successful, where um, populations overrun the resources, then I think that those things naturally do occur. And I think that's probably why, in a lot of circumstances, great proportion of males don't end up mating to have babies. Like they might have sex, but they don't end up having babies. So
Oh
like
yeah.
even in America and in a lot of places, like a lot of the men are not having relationships and they don't have sex, and that's partly probably an outcropping of the fact that the species doesn't need to mate. There isn't
Hmm.
this massive pressure to do it, and so the behaviors are altered and changed. I think that's probably also why there's a large um, like as our species just becomes super successful in America and in first world countries, that's why like a lot of gender things can change, because it's not about sex and babies anymore. It's about expression and life and all these other rationalities. And then so that's why you have like a million different genders and men turning into women and things like that, because it's just not, there isn't this biological pressure and societal pressure to have kids and
Hmm.
to just live that kind of basic normal survival based life. You can do whatever you want. There's really
Yeah.
no reason not like to so any avenues that would normally be squashed by biology or instinct or by society, like oh, I want to wear a wig and I want to look like a girl, like that instinct or that little thought would just be squashed, back in the day. But if it's not squashed and you have the ability to express that as a younger person, and then you get positive feedback, and then you're like, well, this is kind of fun, and or maybe what I'm saying, like there's all
Hmm.
this variety and leniency and openness, and that's only possible if we're doing really well as a species. It's just not possible if you're living in the early 1900s and you have to go fight for your food. Although
Or you're trying to run a farm, but you can't afford to
yeah,
pay people for it, so you
you don't
have
have
like
time to go
fucking
be a
a
girl.
dozen children so that you have fucking free labor to help you
Yeah,
run your farm.
yeah,
Also, you had to have that many kids because a lot of them died within the first few years of their
sure,
life.
sure. But there's
Yeah.
always been you know um people in society who don't match any of those norms,
Yeah.
and then they get
Well, but I feel
called
like
upon.
they've obviously always been around. I feel like they just, you just had to hide it back then because it was
Mostly, yeah.
way more taboo. And now, like, people are like, there's so many more gay people. I'm like, no, there's probably not. They're just able to freely express themselves now without fear of being fucking lynched or, lose their
Yeah.
jobs or be frowned upon
Well, and
generally in
and
society.
they don't have to hide it from them. They don't have to um repress it themselves.
Hmm.
Like back in the day, if you had any inclinations that were going to be to set you apart from society and get you ostracized, then you just repress it and you would just say it's not true.
Mhm.
Whereas now you can be open about it. So the propensity is probably the same. It's just the expression of it is totally different now. Genetically, I'm guessing there's just a proportion of, most mammal species that are going to end up, outside the norm.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I do you know? I guess I could look that up. I didn't really think about it. Are there other species that have like a somewhat predominant homosexual population? Like, I wonder if maybe
there's no predominance of
not predominant. Yeah, that's not
homosexuality,
the right word. I mean,
but
but like
but
a
there's a proportion.
substantial proportion of.
Absolutely. A lot of well, it depends. The problem is that we have like cultural definitions of homosexuality that also include behaviors other than sex.
Mhm.
Whereas in animals, the only way we would think that they're homosexual is like two males attempting to have sex, and whether or not that's them misinterpreting the situation is hard to tell. Like,
Yeah.
because like two dogs might just start humping each other out of pure instinct, not out of like some internal knowledge of who they're attracted to. You know what I'm saying? So it's a bit
Mhm.
of a weird connection, but there are absolutely gay behavior or homosexual behavior in tons of different animal species.
It'd just be
And
interesting to see
it's
like.
not like random. It's like a certain percentage of the
Mhm.
observed species is engaging in homosexual behavior, and it's like exclusive. Some species have exclusive homosexual behavior, and then you have species like bonobos, um, apes that have really promiscuous sexual behaviors in and amongst every aspect. Like there's almost no barriers other than I think
Hmm.
the mothers and the sons don't have sex, and
Oh,
other
that's
than
good.
that little thing that just sort of happens naturally, for some reason their species has found out that that's a bad idea because of uh the
Genetic
negative
defects,
aspects of
probably.
genetic
Yeah.
defects. For some reason they're not talking about it. They're not like, hey, don't have sex with your mom. It's just they don't. And I mean, maybe they are, but bonobos are like, they're whacking each other off and fucking each other all the time and just rubbing each other's genitals constantly. Whereas
What a
chimpanzees
society
are
to
just
live in.
killing each other all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think bonobos are weird as far as an example of apes.
Yeah, I just never really looked into it, but
Yeah.
something worth researching at some point, just as a curiosity.
Yeah. Well, it's a good, it's like it's it sort of shows that like it's not just like a choice, and it's also not just like evil, and it's not God like punishing you or whatever. Like it's a natural part of
I know it fucking kills me
animal
that people still
behavior.
think it's a choice. I'm like, did you wake up just choosing to love women? Like it's just what you feel. It's just part of the fiber of your being. I don't know. It fucking annoys me when people are like, got to get them to one of
I
those
don't Yeah, I
Christian
don't know
turn you
if
not
that's,
gay camps and make it's like, no,
yeah.
all you're gonna do is just teach them to hide it. And then they'll just pretend like they don't harbor those feelings because they don't want to be subjected to your fucking negative criticism anymore.
Yeah, because they don't have a choice in who they're around.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real problem with choice,
Yeah.
is like they got born into a shitty family,
Yep.
and they also got born, into a body, into a, a certain, you know, biology.
I remember when I was a kid because my dad is extremely homophobic. He also doesn't like interracial couples. And I just remember as a kid, like him just always talking about how like if I turned out gay, he like wouldn't want anything to do with me and
Oh,
stuff.
really?
So I remember as a kid, I was like
Really
afraid
worried
to
about
be
it. Yeah.
gay. I was like, what if I turn out gay? Then my dad will hate me because I like boys. So I remember that being like a strange fear that I like had sometimes where I was just like, I hope I don't turn out gay because I don't want my dad to hate me.
Yeah,
And
that
then you have
sucks.
your friends calling you gay, and then you're like, no, I'm not gay. Like, my
It's
dad's
like,
gonna hit
yeah, it
me.
really
Like,
makes you
please don't
scared.
say that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's culture, man. That's
yeah.
that's 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 the scariest thing ever. It's fucking culture
I blame religion,
being
man.
weird.
Fucking bullshit.
Yeah, I think that has a huge deal with it. But that's
Hmm.
also like what I was saying about earlier, is that if you live in a society where child mortality is super high, you create rules about having sex.
Mhm.
And the rules typically are like in Christianity, it's about monogamy, and it's also about like in Catholicism, not using condoms, and that's 100% because they want to have more babies. And
Well,
if somebody's
how
gay
are you
in the
going to continue your
society,
cult without them? You know.
yeah, if somebody is gay in the society or disrespecting those rules, then you have to have major consequences, or else you feel like your society is going to break down. And of course there's hierarchies, and the men in charge are like making those rules. So the Christians decided that they were going to um stone and kill gay people. The Muslims do that too. Like
Mhm.
they are not okay with you not having babies and sucking dicks, sucking your, when you
Well,
have
what
new.
if you were able to fill your baby quota while also sucking other dudes' dicks? I mean,
If you can keep it quiet, then do it.
yeah, I was just, yeah.
You just, can't have babies from your mouth or butt. I've heard.
I haven't tested it myself, but I've heard, I've been led to believe
I've tried to
through,
have some babies.
I've been led to believe through extensive articles and research that I've
Yeah.
done that it's not
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
I
So,
have not field tested it, though. That's the
yeah.
problem. I'm not
Yeah.
gay. Don't call me gay. I'm not gay. Wow, this was I don't think the topic we had planned, but this has
No,
been
it's not.
very interesting.
It's not the topic we wanted. It's the topic we needed, which I
Yeah,
don't even know
right.
what we just talked about.
And that's why like we had to call the podcast Fleeting Thoughts, because then if people
It
listen
is,
to it,
of
they're like,
course.
what was this episode? Oh, it's just
I think the name of the podcast is what keeps it going, because
Mhm.
if we had to stick to something very specific, it would be more work.
Yeah, it would
That
be.
would suck. But I
There's
think it's such a good name that I think that it just really fits, and it makes it like of course that's what most podcasts are. Most
Mhm.
podcasters are just people talking about whatever.
Yeah.
And they might have some, because everybody has their own little niche of knowledge, and so that's what they end up talking about, but really it's just whatever comes to mind.
I want to just point out something I appreciate that you just said, which is the word niche. You didn't pronounce it niche. You
I
pronounce it
probably have
niche.
before, but I think
And I don't
niche
know why.
is
Like,
more appropriate most of the
yeah,
time.
there's something, it's weird because I know that the correct pronunciation of that word is niche because it's
I
not
don't agree.
English.
I don't think there's a
But
correct pronunciation
I
of
say
it.
niche because I like niche, because there's something about niche that it makes it
I
feel like a
think niche is,
small
I
thing,
think
like this
different.
niche.
I think niche is a more Americanized specific context, and it has to do more with business. And I think niche has to do more with like culture and art.
Yeah,
And
maybe.
does that make sense? Kind of
I
like
hate when I say niche that people are like, oh, you mean niche? I'm like, no, you know what I meant. Like the idea of us
what they
communicating
mean. What
verbally
they
is when I
mean.
say words,
Yeah.
you know what they mean, and
Yeah.
vice versa.
I
So if I
have
say niche and you know that it's niche, shut up. Like, don't correct
what
me.
they're saying is not you meant to say. What they're saying
Yeah.
is you
You
meant
didn't
to
mean
say
that,
this a
dude.
certain way, even though I totally understand what you said.
Yeah.
I had a guy come in to the store the other day, and he goes, do you have any 3.5-inch floppy, or do you have any floppy drives? And I go, I think you mean flash drives. And he goes, no, I mean floppy
Like a
drives.
floppy fucking
And I
disk,
go, you mean
boy.
like a floppy, like a 8-inch, or I think they used to be 6-inch or whatever,
I don't even
or
know.
the
Yeah.
3.5-inch. They were the 3.5-inch, which were not floppies. They were hard ones. They looked like really
Yeah, because there
big
were like the
SD
floppy
cards.
floppy ones that were
And
actually
then there
like
were the floppy
wiggly.
ones that were,
Yeah.
that were all floppy, and that's why they were called floppy drives.
Whoa, yeah.
But the three
Connecting
and a
the
half
dots.
inch ones were not called floppy drives.
Mhm.
They're like huge SD cards, and those were, I think that we just called them 3.5s or something like that. And he was asking for those, and I was like, no one has used those in, I don't know, 15, 20 years, 30
Yeah.
years, probably 30 years that people have been using. um, I don't know what, I think we were using CDs for like a 10-year period or so.
Mhm.
And he was like, he's like, I said floppy and I meant floppy. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that you don't know what you're saying, but that's ridiculous. Like, why would you come in here asking for a fucking floppy drive?
Was it like an older guy? Because that sounds like something
Yeah,
like an
of
older person would
course.
say, right?
He
Like
was
where
like 60.
he means SD card or
Yeah,
something, but he's
we
like,
get people
yeah, I need
all the
like a
time doing
floppy
that.
disk. And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's
Well, what
because
it's
that's
usually
what they're
flash drive. They don't know
uh-huh.
how to say flash drive, or they call it a
Yeah.
jump drive. I mean, jump drive is still commonly used, but or they'll call it a stick, memory stick or something, you
Mhm.
know. And it's always flash drive. It's almost always flash drive. And so I wasn't trying to I was trying to help him, but he
Yeah.
wasn't super offended. He just was like clarifying, like, no, I meant the thing that doesn't make any
They
sense.
don't even make those drives anymore. Like
Of
I don't know.
course not.
It's
No, of
fucking
course not. No,
weird,
it's
man.
completely outmoded. You can't. You can find a 3.5 reader. They sell them
Yeah.
online, but it's like you shouldn't be using it. It's probably not going to work very well,
This
and it
fucking
holds like
thing's
what
like
300
3 megabytes of
megabytes.
data
Yeah,
or something like that. Like
it's
it's just nothing.
ridiculous. It's like when people want to buy a bunch of CDs to share information, and I'm like, just use Dropbox. Like, why are you using a CD? You have to burn information. It only holds like 3 gigs. And you could buy a 16 gig flash drive and put 8,000 photos on it.
And it's
Like,
probably
what is
cheaper than
happening?
buying a whole bunch of discs
Well, the
also.
discs are cheap per disc. So like
Mm.
it's $10 for like, 50 discs. But what a pain in the ass.
Well, there was like this
Just
weird
put
kind
it
of
on YouTube.
light speed change in technology from like 2000 to 2020 because think of all the different forms
Oh, it's
of storage
crazy.
that we had in just like that 2 decade
Yeah.
period.
Well, and,
Um,
and a lot of older people, maybe they turned 40, 50 around that time, and now they're 60, 70, 80 years old, and they weren't, they didn't work. They retired, somewhat early, or they just don't work a lot, or they work in a place that doesn't use technology very much. And their kids are kind of, know about the technology, but they don't know. And then they just show up and they're like, I want to know. I don't know how to use this stuff at all. And you're like, but how do you not? This has all been, I've used this every day because most of us use technology every day and we stay up to date with the stuff that's compatible. But a lot of people just jump into it now from 20 years ago or 10 years ago. So who knows what it'll be, like in another 20 years.
I know. I can't wait to
Well,
be out of the loop myself, right? Like I
I
finally
know,
hit the
right?
point where I'm like,
And you don't care, and you
I start
make
to
fun of
feel
young
that
people.
way. I start to feel that way now with some of the apps like TikTok and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? What is that?
Yeah.
Why would you use it?
I was
So that's
watching
when I started to feel
I was
old.
watching Reels, Instagram Reels last night.
Mhm.
I never watched those. I was just like put on a few, and it's retarded.
Oh, another hard R dropped on this episode.
I don't it's not good. Like there's like no preparation. The dancing is terrible. The chicks are just think they're hot, and so they just go boopity boop boop, and that's the whole thing. It's like talentless, lame 2-second videos. It's
But
crazy.
but if you have like 500 people watching, it's 500 sets of eyes that were on you and your
Yeah.
silly dance,
It's
and you
who
were sort of famous for a second.
you're nothing. You are nothing. You are a nothing person. You're nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's terrible. It's just schlock. It's just
That's what a lot
people
of
looking in the
social
mirror
media
and
stuff
making
is.
faces like
Yeah.
you're a child. There's no entertainment there. And then you find, and then there's one
It's
in
like really
50,
funny.
and you're
Yeah.
like, beautiful, wonderful
Mhm.
art,
Yeah.
very good, very
Nailed it.
entertaining. Like there's a family of 4 who play classic um Latin guitar, and it's like these 2 kids. They're very young, and they're 2 parents, and they play guitar amazingly well, and they play together, and it's like this 30-second video of them playing. It's like that's real, like they're really doing that. That's real talent and
Mhm.
skill and art. And then the next video you watch is just somebody with their camera like barely on their eye, and there's a thing in the background, like a noise in the background, and you're like, that's not a thing. You didn't do anything. You just put your phone up to your face and didn't do anything. It's crazy.
It's
Crazy
true, man.
sauce.
The fucking barrier for entry is so low. You can
It's nothing.
just do whatever you want.
Stop buying your kids phones. They're ruining the world.
It's weird when you see like young like kindergartners and first graders and they have like a smartphone and you're like, I mean, I don't want to sound like an old person, but
Yeah.
aren't they a little young for that? Like, Jesus, let them live their fucking lives for just a little while without this shit in their face all the time.
Yeah. I mean, they
Like,
need it. They need to know how to do it all. They need to know the
yeah,
technology. It's a part of life, and it's an extension of our cognitive capacities to be able to use these things, to use the notes, to use a calculator, to use the internet.
it's also
That's a part
important,
of
but
life now.
it's also about, I think it's just because I know that there's no balance for a lot of people where it's like, yes, like your kids need to learn how to use all this technology because it's going to be vital to their existence. But also like they should be able to learn how to just embrace nature and like go for a walk outside without something in like
Yeah.
a piece of electronics. And just because we are still fucking beings on this planet and there's a
Yeah.
lot that it can offer us. I don't know.
Yeah. I think there's definitely going to be a downside to constantly um, stimulating yourself.
Mhm.
I know that it distracts me sometimes, but Channy's making masturbation movements. I think there's a huge downside, and I think that'll come out for sure. Um, I think that's definitely going to happen. I just think that we just don't put a lot of effort into like promoting intelligent endeavors with kids. And some people do, and there are going to be really smart people, and they're going to be really educated, young people who go into high end fields, and that's good. But I think because our industry in America is mostly um, less intelligent, like a large chunk of our labor is very easy.
Mhm.
Um, we don't have a pressure to get kids to be really like they're going to be smarter than we are because of their ability to use technology.
Well,
Um,
having Googling in your fucking pocket all the time is
yeah.
amazing. Like if you don't
Well,
know
and
something, it's a one search away and you'll
yeah,
have
and,
your
and that's
answer.
going to be a type of intelligence that's going to be
Hmm.
really valuable, is being able to problem solve quickly and learn quickly. And they'll be able to do that. And I think that intelligence kind of is a sliding scale. But what I think is that like deep, critical, intellectual intelligence is just not a big deal for most of the people in
That's,
the
I mean, I think
education
it's
world.
the
And
critical
so,
thinking piece of
yeah,
it is what's going
critical
to start to
thinking and
slide
and
away.
and good debates that are rational, and argument strategies and things that are really um uh I think those things just make society more interesting and better and more. And I guess that probably is happening slowly, but I feel like there's just a lot of really dumb people running around, and it's um
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know.
That's why I like living in a small farming community where I don't see that many people. It's
Yeah.
like I work all week in the city dealing with this shit and then I leave to
Yeah.
go home or I hide away.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's also working with a lot of people who are out of touch with technology, that I'm saying that, and the young people are not out of touch with the technology for the most part.
Mhm.
So we'll see. That'll be my thing when I'm older, is I'm gonna be like, you fucking stupid kids. You're all dumb. You don't know what it's like to go out in the woods and camp.
It's true. It's like every generation has that though, it's like every generation talks shit about the
Yeah.
next
It's
generation
not,
down and vice
yeah,
versa.
yeah. We're all just judgmental assholes.
I say that to my mom sometimes, or like other people that, like that are a generation over me and they're like kids these days. I'm like, dude, your
Adults
fucking
these
parents
days.
were saying that about you. Like it's a never ending
Yeah.
cycle. The kids
It's
these days comment. It's like,
it's really just people all the time.
yeah,
People
just
all the time suck.
we,
We get in
we
each
are
other's
the
way.
worst.
We don't care about each other. We're dumb, and we're overconfident.
Hmm.
And that
And
maybe that's more of American thing. Like,
but secretly, we're all just running around screaming on fire on the inside because we have no idea what
ah,
we're doing as
yeah,
we march inevitably towards oblivion, where we'd like to think there's a nice, pleasant afterlife, but really there's nothing. It's just going to be like before you were born. You're just going to blink out of existence. You're done. That's where we should end this episode. I think that was like the perfect
obviously,
cap right
obviously.
there.
Boom, done.
And
You're gonna die. Fucking deal with it. Be nice to
there's
people, because they're gonna die too.
nothing.
cherish your loved ones because they're gonna die soon. um,
Yeah, I mean, relatively speaking, in the grand
Relatively,
scheme of time,
because
we're
they're
all
your
dead very
relatives.
soon. Yeah.
They're your relatives. Let's finish up with recommendations, and then we'll plug the websites and the books.
And all that good stuff. Well, my recommendation this week is, and
I gotta
because
write this down.
I just played through it recently,
Uh-oh.
and I didn't realize how many people hadn't played this series because it's such a big series. You would think that everybody that plays
Oh, I
fucking
know what
video
you're
games would
talking
play.
about.
But the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, I totally recommend, especially if you for some reason like skipped out on it. Like I guess it's because the first one came out in 2007, so there are probably people who were like 5 or 6 at that time period that missed it, and now they're fucking 20 or whatever. um but they're really, oh god damn, it's like
Yeah.
one of those series that just holds up so well, and the improvements and updates and stuff that they added to the Legendary Edition, especially to the first Mass Effect, make it so much more playable. Like it's still a little janky, but like it's at least tolerable now, whereas if you go back and try to play the original Mass Effect, it's so clunky. And obviously they improved a lot with Mass Effect 2 and 3. Like each iteration, like the gameplay got a lot better. But the Legendary Edition is great. It's great being able to replay through all of them with updated graphics and gameplay, and just kind of relive them back to back and carry your character through. And it's the best sci-fi story like in video games. Like it's one of the best series of games from just like a storytelling perspective. So if you're into sci-fi, or you always wanted to live like a Star Trek fantasy or something, it's like the closest you'll get to it within games anyway. So yeah, I played through it recently when it came out, and just had a fucking, every time I play through it, I'm like, god damn, I love these games. Like I somehow forget how much I love them every time I play them. So yeah, that's my recommendation for those of you who either are interested in revisiting the franchise. This is the perfect time, or if you've never played it, hop on the bandwagon. The water is fine, as they say, on this bandwagon. We have a pool in the back of the bandwagon. Everybody's swimming in it. It's really nice. My
Yeah,
analogy,
I
my
recommend
analogy
that.
got away from me really fast. I'm sorry.
Um, the bandwagon. That I think it's a bandwagon worth jumping on. I loved Mass Effect 2 and 3. I never played one, but it's very enticing to think about going back, and because I don't remember the story well enough, and I'm sure I could make different decisions, and the gameplay was so fun, and the weapons and the upgrading and the acting and the worlds, the Citadel, your favorite thing on the Citadel or whatever you used to say or whatever.
My favorite store on the Citadel.
Yeah, I love that. And how and then you notice like these things change as your character becomes more famous. It's
You should
interesting.
definitely do it.
Yeah, do
Play
it
it. Pick it
now.
up.
Buy
Pick it
it.
up on your PlayStation.
We don't make any money telling you to do that. So just do it anyway. And then hey, BioWare, give us money.
Buy our podcast. Just buy us outright. We'll just become a BioWare podcast.
Oh yeah, I
Sure.
don't give a fuck. Oh yeah, Fleeting Thoughts. Well, fuck that. It'll be
We'll
Fleeting
just,
Thoughts about BioWare games.
we'll just talk about Mass Effect and Dragon Age and shit.
I'll
all
sell
day.
out tomorrow for a certain amount of money.
Anybody's listening, we will sell out to just about anything.
Well,
just about. There are some things I would say no, but
for a certain amount of money.
I'm not gonna sell out to like a Nazi organization. I don't care how much money you give me.
You have standards. We all know you have
standards.
standards.
Thank you.
At least something.
What about you?
My recommendation is going to be really old manish. It's Bob and
Walking
Brad.
Canes by Bob. Oh no, sorry.
No, it's a YouTube channel called Bob and Brad, and they are physical therapists, and they have really great recommendations for don't laugh, for stretches and exercises that are healthy and help you with pain. I have recently had a bunch of back issues and leg issues. Like I just went so hard on my squats that like I actually think I caused a problem in my leg, butt, and back on the right hand side. And I've been working like I haven't been working out almost at all. And I've been just trying to do these little stretching and minor exercises to try to make it better, and it's making it better very slowly. And I think that their advice on that YouTube channel has been very helpful for that. So I think that especially as you get older, it's good to have exercises that are not going to cause problems in the future, and then stretches and things that are good for recovery. So I have found their YouTube, just a few little stretches that I've been doing have been helpful, and massaging certain areas, recovery type, stuff. That's it.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. I mean, once you start getting into those late 30s, bad posture and all that shit starts catching up to you.
Yeah, and lifting bad, and working out without knowing, how to do it really well, or working out without recovery time and recovery techniques, and just letting your muscles get really tense all the time is not good. You get repetitive stress injuries. You can mess up your system. So I don't want my back to hurt. I want to be able to walk around.
Walking is nice.
Yarp. All right. I think that's going to do it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Go to joesnotesblog.com for website interactions. And right.
You were doing so well. And then it's sort of, you're like, what is Joe Notes blog? I don't even know.
I don't know. Why do you want to go there? I don't know. Why do you want to go there? You don't want to go there. That's where I post.
To look at Joe's photography and his blog posts, ruminations on recent novels that he's read or films that he's watched.
Yep, I'm almost done with that other book. It's super good.
News of the World.
Yeah, News of the World.
I just bought a hardcover copy of it to put on my bookshelf. I read it on Kindle, and I wanted it in my collection.
Very nice. And it's worth like owning, and I'm gonna like recommend it to people, unless the end is like really shitty and it goes, it was all a dream. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. I don't think that's the magazine you read.
Wow. Talking about analogies getting away from you, that just,
I don't know. Is that an analogy?
Dumpster on fire, just rolling down a fucking wet street right there.
That's how we like to end every podcast. Go to Amazon.com and type in Channing Cornwall, and then spend all your money with whatever results show up.
Buy them all.
Support local or not local artists. Who knows? I mean, if you're in Eugene or Oregon, he's local, but
support independent artists.
Independent.
I don't
he is very independent.
I'm not owned by anybody.
Support things with your monies and your body.
But also, I'll sell out too. Like if somebody wants to buy movie rights to sell, just let me know.
Oh yeah, they should.
I'm ready to sell out at any point.
Yeah. All right. All right. That's it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.